Good evening, everyone. And we're back. And of course, y'all know, and if you don't know, you're getting ready to find out that there is breaking news. I'm gonna be like CNN tonight, y'all. It's breaking news. We got breaking news, just in case you didn't know. So, I got a couple of things that we're gonna cover tonight. That we're gonna deal with a little bit of history on top of these current events, because there's a couple of things happening that ain't cool, but we're gonna talk about it this evening. We're gonna talk about coincidences and how coincidental certain things are, but then again, maybe not. But like I said, just in case you didn't know, there is breaking news here in these United States, and I'm gonna just let you know right from the rip, there has been another shooting. Another semi-unarmed black man has been killed in Atlanta, but we're gonna talk about that too. So y'all hold tight. Let's get this party started. All right. Okay, good evening, Val, Tashura, Cynthia, good to see y'all. Thank you for checking in. I see you, Michael Reese. Tony Hearn, good to see you. Thanks for stopping by. Robert Mitchell, I see you, my brother. Okay, so check this out. I want to start with a couple of problems that I have with a couple of upcoming events. And normally I wouldn't have a problem with these events because it's not something that I would be frequenting or even give a damn about. But there's an interesting set of circumstances that go on here. And it has to do with coincidences. Is it a coincidence that our mango maniac in the White House has decided, and I mentioned this on yesterday, that he is going to hold his campaign rally in Tulsa, Oklahoma on Juneteenth. Now, some of y'all may not know what Juneteenth is, because I ain't gonna lie, I didn't really learn about Juneteenth until I moved to the South. DJ Samsonite checking in. I see you, my brother. Carmen Love, thank you for checking in. I didn't learn about Juneteenth until I moved to the South. You know, being from Chicago, it wasn't something that we held, I guess, high on our list of holiday or celebrations or things of that nature. But for those of you who don't know, Juneteenth is a celebration of the end of slavery, one that came 2 years after the actual end of slavery, which was the Emancipation Proclamation. The end of slavery was 1863, but people in Texas did not find out until June 19th of 1865. And of course, we just recently celebrated the 99th year of that. All right. Well, no, I'm sorry. I'm tripping. I'm thinking about the other event. No, that's not the 99th year. Anyway, Juneteenth is coming up. But he decided to have a campaign rally in, of all places, Tulsa, Oklahoma. Well, the thing is, and you have to ask yourself, is it a coincidence that on this date in 2020, that the location of this thing being Tulsa, Oklahoma, which is the location, of course, of the destruction of what we refer to as Black Wall Street. Now, I ask myself, does he have people in his camp who encourage these types of behaviors or say to him, let's actually do this thing, in order to incite a riot, in order to cause more problems or cause more pain or to piss people off. You have to ask yourself which one is true. Either way, it's ignorant and it's rude, and I know that by now he knows what's taking place. So he's decided that he's going to hold his campaign rally on Juneteenth, celebration of the end of slavery, in a city, Tulsa, Oklahoma, where destruction, disenfranchisement, dehumanization, murder, and mayhem took place on that date. That was actually May 31st of 1921. And that, of course, is the 99-year mark I was talking about. All of these things being in this particular location at this particular time are a sort of, to me, a stab in the neck. I think it's really ignorant and rude. But I don't know. I just come to expect these things from this person we have in the people's house. And it only reminds me, y'all, don't forget, November is coming. It's almost time. Black Wall Street, the place of terrible, terrible memories, Tulsa, Oklahoma, on a date in which we celebrate another part of our history as black folks, while he goes and has a Klan rally. Now, keep in mind that Tulsa, Oklahoma is the only city in the continental United States that has ever, in the history of America, been bombed by air. It was bombed during that event, where over 300 residents of Tulsa, Oklahoma, all black, men, women, and children, were murdered at the hands of a white mob. Is it a coincidence that the Tulsa Police Department has a major there? His name is Travis Yates. Of course, he's white. Well, he made a statement the other day. Fortunately, he is under review by the department for his statement. He said officers are shooting African Americans less than they probably ought to be. And he claims that he's only speaking from statistical information. So in other words, somehow, somewhere, somebody got some data that says that black folks are not getting shot enough in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Imagine that. Fortunately, the Tulsa mayor, G.T. Bynum, he called those comments dumb. He and the police chief want to make it very clear that they don't support, condone, or approve of any of those comments, and they don't want no parts of it. Which only leads me to wonder why he's still employed. He should no longer be there. Alex, I see you. Mr. Johnson in the building. I ain't seen you in a while, brother. It's good to see you. Alex, you're absolutely right. He probably heard that from her. I'm sorry you typed her name on my feed because I don't mention her name. Anyway, I am happy to say that at least the police chief and mayor have somewhat of a brain, although Yates has made it clear that he has no intention of apologizing for those comments. Now, Tulsa, Oklahoma also happens to be at this time under scrutiny for the arrest and I'm going to just say trafficking of two young black boys, of course. Allegedly, and I use that term loosely, they were racially profiled I'm going to say allegedly for those who may not believe it, but I'm going to say that they were racially profiled because I believe it, because we already know what it is. Mr. Lapp, absolutely self-explanatory, the color of their skin. It is absolutely the criminalization of black skin. We know what that is. Well, apparently these two 13-year-olds were arrested for jaywalking, of all things. They were walking along a road where there were no sidewalks. And I think personally that my definition of jaywalking, I don't know what it says specifically in their law, but my definition of jaywalking is something completely different than what obviously they consider jaywalking to be. But they appeared to be walking down the street minding their own business when they were accosted by officers. On the body cam of the officer, it appeared that he walked directly up behind the young man and grabbed him by both of his arms. I would go so far as to call that an attack. He had no real reason to be stopping them in the first place, but this is sort of like he fit the description. We know how that goes. They always seem to fit the description. I'll be glad when we eliminate these fake excuses and innuendos that seem to imply that something is going on when we all know exactly what's taking place. He had no reason to stop these two young men other than the fact that they were of color. Now, apparently one of the young men had some previous incidents take place in his life that caused him to not be very cooperative. His mother stated that there is some form of post-traumatic stress there. And he is still, regardless of anything that's being said, 13 years old. So there was a struggle, and apparently it triggered his uncooperative behavior. And as a result of this alleged jaywalking, now both of these young men, 13-year-olds, are charged with felonies. This reminds me of how it is so easy to take a young black male and place him into the system, thus allowing the system to manipulate everything about him and create less opportunities than those that are already unavailable to our young black men. And something must be done to stop that sort of pipeline, if you will, and behavior that we have become so comfortable with. If those were two 13-year-old white children, we already know that this would have been considered excessive and unnecessary. It is unfortunate that as black men, we are often expected as children to be viewed as men, as some sort of big hulking green incredible man, the Incredible Hulk, if you will. Placing felonies on these young men at this early age unnecessarily by these two overzealous and abusive officers, that of course is my opinion, is what causes even further trauma in our communities, and it needs to stop. And that, of all things, like what we're going through nationally, has become something that needs to be dealt with. The criminalization of black skin has to stop. This incident reminds me very much of George Stinney. Now, for those of you who don't know who George Stinney is, I'm going to tell you. George Stinney was an African American child, a black child, who was convicted, and of course later the conviction was vacated 100 years later. Not quite 100, but and exonerated for the unfair trial of murdering a 7-year-old and 11-year-old little white girls. He was the youngest person ever to be executed in these United States. He was 13 years old. His name was George Stinney. Look him up. Go down that rabbit hole when you get a chance. So that just shows you nothing, in fact, has changed. Is it a coincidence that the liar in chief is now going to accept his nomination as president, or to be president again, which, if I or many of you have anything to say about it, will never happen? He has decided to do his acceptance in Jacksonville, Florida. Now you have to ask yourself, why is this a problem? Hi, Regina, I see you. Martha, thank you for checking in. Why is that a problem? Why is it a problem that he is making his acceptance speech or taking his acceptance in Jacksonville, Florida? Well, I'm going to tell you why. The problem is he's doing it on August 27th. Why is this date significant? Well, this date is significant because in the year 1960, on August 27th, in Jacksonville, Florida, that particular day has a moniker that most people don't even know about. It's called Axe Handle Saturday. Did you know that? Did you know that on Axe Handle Saturday, and this is why the name came to be, there was some black youth who attempted to have lunch at an all-white lunch counter. They were there for hamburgers, egg salad sandwiches, and drinks. But, like clockwork, they were attacked by an angry white mob with axe handles. The whole downtown area became a melee, and it, in fact, left many dozens of people injured, and in fact, bestowed Jacksonville, Florida with the moniker on that date of being Axe Handle Saturday. They now had, at that time, a national reputation for violence against black people. My point is that all of these dates and the times in which he has made his decisions to make his announcements and flaunt about are disrespectful at the very least, and a complete slap in the face to the entire black community, while he continues to talk about how much he's done for us. I've said it before, I'll say it again. You cannot stick a knife into my back 12 inches, pull it out 6, and call that progress. It's not how this works. All I can tell you all is that this date is only one of many throughout these United States where black people have been massacred, beaten, dehumanized, disenfranchised, and out killed for the color of their skin, hunted like animals. This must stop. Election time is coming. Please, let's take full advantage of that, because this has to stop. The innuendo, the disrespect is blatant. Unfortunately, there are many who don't know the history and don't know the underlying stabs that are being taken at the black community. And that's why I'm here, because I want to make sure that you understand what's going on. These are not coincidences. And I think we are all clear about that. There is no coincidence in this. Someone has directed him to find every tragic date and time or celebration in the black community, and he intends to smear all those dates by attempting to make it a date when he did something rather than something that was done either to us or for us. And here we are. Moving forward, ladies and gentlemen, I am about to talk about what is taking place right now. So apparently last night, another black man, I am hesitant about calling him unarmed, but another black man was yet again murdered at the hands of, this time, the Atlanta Police Department. And it appears that this particular situation is not cute. Now, as the story goes, there was a call to the police because there was a man asleep in his car at the Wendy's. Now, I'm guessing Wendy's employees, I don't know who called the police, but they did. So, what the GBI has stated is that he was inebriated. That's intoxicated. That means he got his drink on. But what he did do, instead of driving, they tell you don't drink and drive. What he did do, he laid it down in his car at the Wendy's, a lighted place, minding his own business, trying to sleep off whatever alcohol he had in him. He probably grabbed him a sandwich. You know how you do after you leave the club or something. You grab you something to eat and you try to, knock that high down before you try and do too much. So he was in his car asleep. Police showed up. Now, I have a cousin who lost his life, unfortunately, in police custody, who also had been drinking and was asleep in his car. And because, I'm gonna tell you, in case y'all don't know this, I'm gonna give you a little bit of legal advice. If you're in your vehicle and you are asleep, if you drunk, you've been drinking, and you in your car, and you stand a chance of, if a police roll up right now and gave you a sobriety test, you're gonna fail it. Do not have your keys in the ignition. Period. Take your keys out of the ignition. It cannot be said that you are operating a motor vehicle without the keys. And as Cynthia Odom has stated on here, also be in the passenger seat. Those are two gems that I'm going to drop on y'all, just so you know. No keys in the ignition. Be in the passenger seat. Those are two sure ways to try and eliminate the possibility of getting a DUI while trying to sleep off whatever is in your system. Now, that doesn't mean that we won't have some overzealous cops who try to do too much, which is the reason we're going through this now, which is the reason why people have been protesting for the last 3 weeks, because there are officers who do way too much. So they came and they gave him a sobriety test. Now, whether they found keys in the ignition or he was in the driver's seat, who knows? I don't know. I don't know the details. But I do know that they gave him a sobriety test, and apparently he failed. Well, somewhere in there, a scuffle ensued. And in this scuffle, it looked to me like he got the best of two police officers. Having done so, he grabbed one of their tasers and took off running. So the problem is, when he took off running, of course, the man, obviously, he wasn't too drunk, because he was able to do all of that and run. Well, I guess one of the officers figured he had too many donuts and he couldn't catch him, so he shot him. And now, Rashard Brooks, 27 years old, is now deceased. Now, I'm going to show you a video I'm going to show you two videos. One of them is from one angle, and I'm going to show you one from the other, so that you yourselves can see and decide for yourself whether or not this was a justified shooting. I know what I think already, but I just want you to see. And also, let's keep in mind, one of the reasons why I did not say he was unarmed is because he did take one of their tasers. Although, let's keep in mind, and I'm going to throw this caveat out there, a taser is not deadly force. I don't care who has it. It will not kill you unless, of course, you got a pacemaker, I guess, or some other thing going on with you that's going to cause you to die from a taser. He was running away and was shot. So, take a look at this video and tell me what you think. Now they're struggling. He's getting the best of both of them.
Damn.
And there he goes running.
Oh, fuck. Oh. Hey, bro, we got kids.
All right. Now, you heard the gunshots and you saw him running away. Well, because their video was blocked by a car, yes, someone was recording in their vehicle. Now, because the video was blocked by their car, you can't tell exactly what did happen. But now let's still keep in mind that Rashad Brooks, 27 years old, still did not have a firearm. He was shot while holding an officer's taser. Well, now I'm going to give you another view, and you can judge for yourselves what you think about what took place. And there's a slow motion. It's going to run a couple of times here. Now, there he is running in front. He turns and fires the taser at the officer. And right there, I have a little bit better video, but I don't have it up right this second, and I apologize for that. However, my point is this. He was shot in the back. That's the bottom line. The way the video looks, and if you have CNN available to you, I would encourage you to look at that, because they have been running these videos and others. And at the end of the day, even if, okay, let's say the officer, I cannot for the life of me figure out why deadly force was necessary. I don't see the necessity of deadly force. He had an officer's taser. There are enough witnesses on the scene. There was no gun found at the scene. There is no other reason for him to have been murdered and shot in the back. When he was running forward, while running forward, reached back with his arm and fired the taser at the officer. Now, let's keep in mind, a taser only shoots out so far. That officer did not even have to be within range of that taser when it was fired. And rather than give chase and do his job, and yes, that is part of the job, even if you don't like it, sometimes you got to chase folks down. He decided, I'm going to just go ahead and shoot this guy. And I am going to go out on a limb and say that he more than likely shot him in the back. So, as it stands, Keisha Lance Bottoms, who is the mayor of Atlanta, has gone on the record and requested his resignation and that he be arrested and anything else that comes from assaulting a citizen under these circumstances. That was an unjustifiable shooting, in my opinion. The jury apparently is still out. The GBI is investigating, and on top of the mayor strongly going against this whole thing, it turns out that the police chief also resigned behind this incident. She has decided that she will remain with the department, however, in a different capacity, but she does not want any parts of this. And with everything that's taken place with the Atlanta PD over the last month, I think that she's decided that it's not a good look to stay in that position. They fired 2 officers earlier this month after they assaulted 2 students in their vehicle. With everything that's going on right now, this is just not a good time for officers to be acting out. They are under a microscope, and they are going to be held to particular standards. They are going to be under scrutiny. And we, as citizens of this country, despite what some would believe about black people in America, have the duty of making sure that these things are handled properly. Finally, because of the fact that none of this is new, and as black folks, we know this. We know that none of this is new. The only thing that's changed is that we have so much access to video these days. And even for a while, that was hairy because people would always say when it came to the police, oh, it's under investigation. Everything that happens on the video doesn't necessarily mean that's the way it happened. Let somebody black get caught on video doing something, though, and they got the whole story right there on video. So the double standards, the walls of double standards are falling. Finally, I say that this is a wave that needs to be ridden to the shore, and we must ride it. We must ride it. We must ride it all the way in, and we got to make sure that everything that is due to us must be given. It's time. It's been time. It's past time. And every time these types of incidents come to pass, there have to be people that speak up about it, say what needs to be said, come forward, and make these things work the way they're supposed to. We never asked anyone in this country to give us anything. All we've ever asked for was a fair shot at what we deserve. We only asked for a fair shot at opportunity. Nobody asked for anything special. Just move out the way and let us get ours. James Brown said it best. Just open up the door and I'll get it myself. Ladies and gentlemen, that's my time. But I want to thank everybody for stopping in and checking it out. Do your homework. Don't forget the name George Stinney. If you don't know who he is, look him up. Give thought to what's going on in Oklahoma and the way this president is using black culture and black tragedy to slap us in our faces at every opportunity. Take a look at what's happening in Atlanta and let this be yet another example of why justice for us is necessary. It can no longer be just us. There has to be justice. There has to be equal pay. There has to be equal opportunity. And we have to take it. Sometimes we got to take what we want. Not sometimes. I don't even know why I'm saying sometimes. All the times. Power concedes nothing without demand. Our demands must be made, and at some point our demands must be met. But we have to collectively come together and decide what our demands are. Put them on the table and get what we came for. Y'all have yourselves a wonderful evening. That's my time. Love, peace, and chicken grease, y'all.